Welcome back to the Witchy Web We Weave. I'm Alex.
I'm Laura.
And this is the next part of the Futhark Friday rune series. We're on Ansuz, which is the A. I'm going to insert it here. It looks like a broken F. So for people that have a lot of A's and F's in their names, it's going to look kind of a lot alike. I actually many years ago, was practicing writing my runes at work. And I was writing all my coworkers' names, and when I wrote someone's out, she was like, "That looks like an F," and I'm like, "Well, it's an A." So Ansuz is all about your ancestry, your kind of connection to the not just like your ancestors, but their divinity, their divine kind of stuff. So your deity in a way. So especially if you have deity that has been passed in family stuff. So even if that's, a more traditional religion, or if it's, pagan, whatever. But if that tradition has been passed down, this is something very much associated with that. So, like with runes, if your family is heathen or Asatru, and they like Nordic gods, and Odin is your patron god, that would be a very good ancestral deity, because not only is it about Odin, but Odin is very, very deeply associated with Ansuz, because a lot of the runes have elements that they kind of represent, whether it's like ice or land, water, deep water, shallow water, what have you. This one represents air. And Odin is credited with the, what's that called? Creation myth, I guess. The creation myth for the Norns was that Odin basically breathed life into creatures, into humanity, and he gifted them with speech and poetry.
Mm.
So people got like anything that used your lungs and your vocal cords and capacity basically was gifted by Odin. And then that came, he did all that stuff, sacrificed himself with the runes, and then he bestowed basically all that onto people. So that's kind of what we're looking there. So I was talking about how Ansuz is very much about Odin. Now, this is also good for if you don't work with Norse pantheons, and it does represent deity in general, but this rune would be really good if you worked with a head of a pantheon, quite honestly. So if you're looking at Greece, you're looking at Zeus Hera. If you're looking at, Celtic, you're looking at...
Lu, or his...
Is it Danu?
Well, Danu is more of a primal, but he's not, I don't believe Danu is supposed to be the consort to Lu.
Okay. Or Daga? Isn't there something else that was like a higher all-encompassing god? I don't know Celtic stuff.
Yeah, I think Daga is probably Father God. Yeah,
so, for most pantheons, there's either one or a couple of god and goddesses that are kind of, I was actually on Pinterest the other day and I found several, what are they called? Family trees for a lot of the different ancient pantheons.
Yeah.
They were actually really cool looking. I was like, oh, maybe someday. And another thing with Ansuz, it is about speech, communication, song, poetry. It's anything that kind of really involves speech. But it's also learning to listen.
Oh.
One of the quotes that I found along my readings was kind of, hear before you speak. Kind of, like you... A lot of times people are like, you got 2 ears, one mouth, you're supposed to listen twice as often as you talk. Now, I'm actually going to have to look up the bad side of this, because I didn't do that ahead of time. I know that lack of communication is definitely something that pops up if this is either reversed or if you're reading it in a negative sense. Yeah, basically. So, lack of communication, misunderstanding, misrepresentation. It can also be boredom. So again, like, creativity was also very much associated with Odin because speech and because song. So your creative side, not just your mundane, oh, I talk just to communicate, but I'm doing something artful and artistic with my voice.
Oh.
Is also there too.
So elevating it.
Mm-hmm. So, making it just higher than just, you're speaking. And then, another good thing that would be here, besides miscommunication, would be communicating on purpose badly. So, bad advice, bad, just kind of, what's a good word for that? Kind of just, can't think of the word.
You mean kind of like intentionally misleading someone?
There we go. Misleading. Yeah.
Would gossip or malicious comments fall under that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically anything you could think of that you can do with your voice, good or bad, would fall under the rune. So spreading gossip, what's that other word? There's another one that's kind of like, it's almost like a slander would definitely fall into that. So yeah, so it's just, speak your piece, do it with intent, don't harm anyone, there's like borderlines, right? There's definitely moments where you are setting out to hurt someone, and then that's on you if you think that's good or bad for your karma or your fortune or whatever you want to believe in, right? But the rune is kind of like, if you're gonna speak with ill intent, know that it's ill intent and it might come back to get you. Where if you try to speak honestly and with good intent, hopefully bad stuff ain't gonna come your way due to that. Because sometimes, speaking the truth can get you in trouble, just like gossiping or lying might save your butt. It just depends on your situation. So it's also be smart about it, quite honestly. So we've been talking about the runes and how they're like hierarchy of needs and all this other stuff. So this one kind of delves a little differently, so it's not really, it is something you need. You need to communicate with people, even if, I know people right here are probably going to be like, oh, well, what if you can't talk? What if you can't communicate in a normal way? And I don't think it discludes anyone that's unable to speak with speech. I think it's just know how you communicate. So even if, you're nonverbal or you're mute or whatever, if you can communicate with other people in your own way, that is your communication. That is still under the branch of, making yourself known, making your wants known. That's kind of what also, as far as your wants and needs, that's probably where this falls under, is being able to voice what it is you're trying to get out, even if it's, sign language or whatever it is, how you voice yourself.
This has gotta fall underneath the throat chakra.
Oh yeah, for sure. If we were
Gotta.
If we were pulling out, I was gonna get into that, but if we're pulling out chakras, because some are kind of too abstract almost, but this one's definitely something where you're, again, speaking your piece almost. So yeah, something we're probably gonna get to in bits and pieces in other videos is that, like I just mentioned, some folks feel not discluded. What's the word? When you're not included, there's a word for that in there.
Oh, yes.
Can't think of the word. I feel a little dumb, but
well, just excluded would be
excluded. That's what I was looking.
It's like there's probably another word for it, but this one will do just.
Yeah, fine. I was literally just looking for the word excluded. So, I've read stuff where people have felt excluded from certain aspects of pagan witch paths, like kind of just things that are more magical in nature and stuff, and I'm like, there's really not a reason you should feel just, like, excluded. If someone's making you feel excluded, definitely maybe, if that's, like, a group nearby, if that's a coven, if that's whatever in your area, maybe look for other people, or maybe be solitary for a minute. But nothing that I've ever run into myself has ever just been like, oh, you're a guy, you can't do that. Oh, you're a woman, you can't do this. Oh, you're deaf, you can't do that. Oh, you're blind, nope. Oh, you're mute, nope. Like, there's nothing I've ever seen, read, done that has ever told me, oh, this would exclude anybody from following this outside of if
Just people being dicks.
pretty much, because, you know, as long as you have the wherewithal to learn something, you can do anything in this realm of stuff. You know, is it going to be harder? Maybe. Doesn't mean you can't do it. So, you know, I've seen a lot of stuff where, you know, we're going to talk about it later, so we're not going to get too much into that right now, but, so, again, your voice is heard, not necessarily from here, but it's, you know, from your heart and from your mind, depending on how it is you get it out there. That's pretty much all I've really got to say on this one. I'm gonna, you know, there's gonna be pictures inserted, obviously, just so you know how it's used and how it looks and everything else. But yeah, anything else?
Nope.
Alright, well, that about wraps us up, and I will catch you in another 2 weeks.
Bye.
Toodaloo.